Welcome to Two Souls Podcast, a podcast to shift, impact, empower, and disrupt your consciousness, ultimately allowing you to thrive in this human experience. Now here are your hosts, Amber Megenhauser and Angela Blaha. Welcome, everyone. We are so thankful that you are all here joining us on our amazing Two Souls podcast. Today, we have a special topic because there's a lot happening in the cosmic fields and in the universe, and there's lots of chaos going on, right? And we know that we need to make changes, but how do we actually do that, right? So, hi, Amber.
Hello.
How are you today?
Fantastic. How about you?
I am good. All right. So, Amber, how have you made changes in your life when you feel stuck?
That's a question that definitely makes you pause.
It is, right? It is.
I think that, yeah. When I feel stuck, I have to do something I've never done before because I feel like it pushes you in a direction and it makes you see things differently. Mm-hmm. So one of my favorite things is, whether it's take a new class or go for a drive somewhere that I've never drove before. I really like to do that because and when I drive like that and I'm intentionally trying to get unstuck, I don't listen to music. It's like total silence and I will just drive somewhere absolutely beautiful and let come in that needs to come in. But also like taking a class is phenomenal to change it. I don't really know how to put words to it, but it doesn't necessarily make you unstuck, but I feel like it slaps you in the face and helps you see the things that are making you stuck.
Yes. And people, I want to add to that people sort of bring that awareness to you as well, or places, like different places, like when we go on our trips to Peru and Ireland, those kinds of places, or just to Mount Shasta, right? Like those kinds of experiences wake you up to something totally different than what you've seen in yourself before. We're so used to being in our patterns. We're so used to being in the same sort of ritualistic processes every single day. And just being in those every single day without some kind of an experience that sort of pulls you out of the routine, it's really hard. Right? Like it's super hard, and we're not about being hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, for example, right, like we had a vision board class last week, and so there was one lady in there who had a profound experience. Well, I'm pretty sure there were more than one, but she expressed it in the class. So I'll let you talk a little bit about that, Amber.
Yes, we actually had a lady in the class that when she'd actually never really done a vision board. And as she was tearing things out, we all asked each other different questions on why we had certain things on our board. And so when you put something on your board, it brings that awareness to you on, why do I have this on my board? Is it something that I really want, or is it somebody else? And this particular lady, she had so many things of other people. Her whole vision board was about making other people happy, not about how she made herself happy. And the next 2 days later, I talked to her and she was just like, this vision board thing has just been blowing me away, after we left that class that night. After we talked about everything on my board was kind of like me, like trying to make other people happy. She's like, I have seen it every way I look. ever since then. And she's like, I don't want to do this. She's like, I'm making myself miserable, like literally by trying to please other people. She said, I couldn't even finish that vision board the night of the class because I didn't understand it that night, but she's like, I get it now. She said, everything I had to put on my board, she said, is not who I am and what I wanted to bring in my life. It is all about me trying to please other people. And she's like, and I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. I'm doing a new vision board. And I was so happy and proud of her that it takes things like that and having a new experience that you've never had before and people bring into your awareness things that you don't even realize. Like she had no idea that she totally had a like saving people paradigm until that night. And it has just slapped her in the face at everything she has done since then. And then so I'm just so happy because having that new experience for her, like it totally changed her whole world. Like, and in just a week's time, like she literally is a completely different woman and like understanding that no, like I know what I want for myself now and I'm going after it. So it was phenomenal to be able to actually like see somebody totally transform within just a couple of days of having a new experience. Like we need these experiences in our life because we just don't see beyond the circle we have right now.
Yes, these profound. I mean, this was just a simple. It's not like it was a big dramatic cost a fortune. I mean, it was a $30 class, right? 30 bucks. Come in
Yeah.
and be around other like-minded, like-hearted kind of people and envision your future. I mean, it's not like this was, cost
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of dollars. Experiences do not have to cost anything, literally anything. And yes, these kinds
No.
of profound experiences, we need them, especially in the time that we're living through right now, where there's so much chaos, so much fear, so much, atrocities that are happening on a daily basis. And we feel stuck. Like we've been programmed to feel stuck over the last 2 years, right? Like we've been like on house arrest and we've
Yeah.
been on, away from everyone. And if we haven't actually had the awareness to make the internal changes over the last couple of years, well, this year, I can guarantee you that these kinds of awakenings, these kinds of awarenesses are going to become like the natural way of our being because we cannot stay stuck in our old routines. We cannot stay stuck in our old ways, in our old belief systems, in any of those kinds of things. And the fact that she had the profoundness to be able to see how she's not putting herself first, like we've talked about this over and over, right? We have to know thyself and we have to put
Yep.
ourselves first. And to have this kind of a depth out of just a hour and a half class is amazing, but it's going to be the norm for humanity.
Yeah. Well, I think the new world, it is the norm. Like it I'm sorry, but it brings up all your shit. And
Hmm.
if you are not ready to deal with it, you are in complete pain and suffering. Like
Yes.
and it's everything. We've even talked about how when both of us had this sickness, it brought up all our crap, but it actually like catapulted us forward to understand how we needed to adjust that part of our life.
Hmm. Right.
Like everything can absolutely catapult you forward, but what are you actually doing to get to that point? Doing the same routine every single day, talking to the same people, going to work, like doing the same thing every day does not do anything for you. You have to have a new experience in your life to understand it, for that stuff to even come up and have your awareness like drawn to it. Like this lady had no idea that she even did this. None. And people have told her
Hmm.
that she does this, but she had no awareness about it until that night. And now it's like her awareness about it is so big, it actually, in a way, partially can kind of create a chip on your shoulder because you've like helped people for so long. And you're like,
Mhm.
and you just don't help yourself. And so now yeah, it totally shifted everything in here. Well, by doing that too, it also changes your whole perspective on everything around you. You think about
Mhm.
the people you hang out with. You think about where you spend your time, who you're giving your energy to, what you're actually doing. It creates such a big awareness. It's not just one simple thing, it actually shows you everything in your whole life.
Yeah. Well,
But
I
you can't, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Well, I don't think she came
You can't change.
to the class thinking that she was going to make this drastic of a change.
No,
I
she
think she had
definitely
the
did not.
idea, right? And so we don't necessarily have to have these like internal knowings or internal drives that we need to change. When we have experience, that's the whole point of having a new experience or any kind of an experience that's out of your normal routine, is that there is a possibility of this awakening factor that's happening, or a new awareness about yourself comes in, and we don't necessarily have to have a pre-program, that I'm going to go in, I'm going to make this big drastic change in my life. That's generally not how it actually happens. It actually happens when you go and you're like, well, whatever happens, happens, and you have this non
Yeah,
attachment to the outcome. Like, that's super important. And again, one of the seven powers of the soul, right, is unattached. Um, and we've had that experience within the
yep,
last month ourselves by creating a different kind of a business, different strategies to a business, and we've had roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. Well, not having an attachment
yeah,
actually opened up the doors to something totally phenomenal.
yeah, yeah. It was, you're completely right. Like, we weren't attached, but we've also understand the not being attached to anything either. We just kind of let it flow. And we had roadblock after roadblock after roadblock where it was to the point where you almost wanted to get frustrated about it. And you're like, what am I missing here? Like, something is not adding up here. And once we just like completely let it go, it literally found us
Yes, exactly.
in a
That's
way.
when you know it's that's when you know
Yeah.
there's a flow that's happening, because things just start to roll. Like, there's no up rolling a
Yeah.
rock uphill strategy. It's just you start to flow things, and the rock starts to roll downhill, and things are just smooth and easy, and you're like, oh yeah, this is the right decision. And we talked about that night,
Yes.
at the vision board class, about how things just, when you're in something that's perfectly aligned, because everything just is smooth and it flows. Not that we don't need resistance.
Yeah.
Now, look, we needed the resistance. You and I needed the resistance, with what we were
Yep.
thinking and what we were trying to create. We needed that resistance to open up to the flow. We needed those
Yeah.
roadblocks, to be honest. We needed those, and we saw them, right? And then it's like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
what are we not seeing here? What are we not open to? And then all of a sudden, you know, the the actual business found us.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. We just like kind of let it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That was actually a really interesting experience for us, like, cuz I don't know if either one of us really ever dealt with like that many blocks. I mean, it was block after block after block and both of us were just like, what the heck? Like, what are something was just not vibing with it, but we couldn't figure it out because everything was in a way like lighting up, but it there was like these side things that were not cooperating. And we were
Yeah.
just like finally like, okay, we're done. We're done giving this energy. We have exhausted all
Hmm.
efforts. And the next day it was like, here you go. We found you.
Exactly. Exactly. I even said I've had businesses, over my lifetime. Oh, I've always had at least one or two businesses over my life. since I was 20 years old. And I said, I've never had this much resistance in creating a business. And then, and then all of a sudden we're like, okay, well, we're done. And then here it is. It's right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's exactly what the lady that happened to the lady, right? Like she came to the
Yeah.
class with I don't know how to create my life, basically, and over a couple days has just changed everything in her life. Like from the ground up, she is
I think
changing
some of it
everything.
is, yeah, absolutely. And I think some of it too is like having that open mind. She definitely came to the vision board class like with an open mind. She didn't really know what to expect. She had no expectations whatsoever. She went there with a clear, it's like what happens happens, and she had a phenomenal experience. And in a way, like that's kind of what we did with the business we're trying to create also is, we had a plan for the way it looked and what we thought it was going to be, but sometimes the way you think and the way you plan is not how it turns out. And then it did create a lot of blocks for us, but the minute we let it go and had no expectation about it, it totally came to us by itself. And so
Hmm.
having that expectation, I think, is a huge, huge key. Where if you go with an open mind to anything, you have a phenomenal experience. But if you have any expectations at all before you walk in there, you're not going to have that great experience.
Yeah. Well, I think that so let's use us as the example here, right? Because we had thoughts about what we wanted, about how we wanted it to look or how we wanted it to be. And then I think what happened was we wanted it in a certain place. We wanted it in a,
Yeah.
you know, and we weren't open to anything else really, because we had that vision. We had
No.
that. It wasn't even really a vision, it was an idea. We had a specific idea about where it
Yeah.
should be, about a physical location. And the
Yeah.
physical location was the problem, right? The whole rest of
Yeah.
the
It
ideas, the
was. Yeah.
concepts are still very valid. They're still very much in flow, and they're still very much a representation of who we are becoming. Um, holistic health, holistic well being, all those kinds of things, which is what we primarily, work towards. Um, all of that is still the vision. What happened was we
Yeah.
we chose to put it in a specific place, and that specific place was not the right flow.
Yep. And it blocked every avenue with it.
Yeah,
Every avenue.
yeah, yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Yep.
know, and we knew that, right? Like after we took the action steps, we took the inspired action steps, we took, we did meditations, we did all of the things. But we really were focused on that one physical location, and you know the business itself was not having it. And so even doing all the right things, sometimes you have to take a step back sometimes, especially when the blocks start coming and you start asking yourself, okay, well, this, the idea. So what happens is you start to doubt yourself, right? Like there was a point when I said, okay, we have to pause, not go into doubt and not start questioning ourselves about our own abilities or our own, what we're creating here. We have to take a pause and take a breath and say, okay, what is it? What is it that I'm missing, that I'm not seeing correctly, or that I'm pushing and trying to force into creation? Because what I know now about the energies now, like we used to be able to force things in the past, right? Like, you could just force your way through things, but that's not really the case any longer. Forcing energy or forcing ideas and concepts into fruition, like, no, you can't do that because there's an alignment component, and the earth and the
Yeah.
cosmos and your soul self, right? It's all about alignment. And when you're
Yeah.
missing the alignment, the blocks come in.
Yep.
I feel like we're going to see more and more of that this
You
next
are,
year.
I think that that would make so much sense, because we live in a world right now. The old world was about a lot of control. And,
Mm-hmm.
we not that we were trying to control what we were trying to do, but having that specific location in a way was a little bit of control, because it's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
we would
Yep.
even accept any other option to have a different piece. But the minute we release from that and we're like, okay, I guess this is not going to happen, that we just couldn't see that it was actually that that specific area that was causing the block. And once we let it go, it all just happened. And I think that the control factor with some of that in the new world, there's just no, that is not going to be allowed. So
Mm-hmm.
if we tried to, didn't matter what avenue we went, it wasn't going to happen. And
Right.
not only that, like, I feel like some of the other end of the people we were dealing with, there was a huge control factor there. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was never going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, that happened with the lady at the vision board class, right? Like she didn't want to have control
Yeah.
over herself any longer. I mean, it was like, when we talked about saving people and how the vision board should be your future, not anyone else's future, like you should not bring anyone into the scope of it. It should just be you and what you envision for yourself. That
Yes.
like her shoulders released and like she just became a different person in that moment. I mean, the awareness may not have been there, the logicalness of it all, which took a couple days for her to rationalize through and to think about and to actually see. Um, but the change happens instantaneously. The healings that we
Yeah.
incur for ourselves happen instantaneously. It's just the recognition of the healing or the recognition of the change that sometimes can take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you know what? You're totally right. Like, it does shift you, but you don't see all the changes until
Mm-hmm.
it's like they just come like waves. And it's almost like you see it every single way you look after that. It's like you get it.
Yeah, exactly. Hmm. Yeah, it's phenomenal how it works. But you also have to be in
Yeah.
recognition of it. I mean, you have to be aware enough to recognize it yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
We
want
don't,
to recognize it for that matter.
yeah. We don't take enough time to recognize the changes that we do make in our life. And so when we don't recognize those changes, we just create more and more blocks for ourselves because we're
Yeah.
not recognizing, those small things. Like it was just a small thing that happened that night, right? Like she had an awareness that, she didn't put
Yeah.
herself first and she couldn't create the board. And she's like, well, I'll just finish it at home.
Yep.
And yeah, okay, finish it at home, but make sure it's about you. And then she started over.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, she totally started over, because she it made me laugh so much when she was just like, I can't even use one of those papers I ripped out of that thing that those books that night. I'm like, I get that. Your whole
yeah,
vision changes.
yeah. And it's not like
Yeah.
she had just 5 pictures that she had taken. I mean, there was a pile of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So good for her. I'm glad that she's
Yep.
making all the changes that she needs to be happy and blissful and excited and thriving about life, right? Like that's why we make these changes in our life
Yes.
so that we can actually move out of surviving and into thriving. And sometimes we have to
Yes.
like allow the courage within ourselves to evolve in order to make those changes happen. And they don't have to be gigantic. Again, those big gigantic changes aren't always the best option. Like sometimes the smallest changes are the best because especially if we have fear about too many changes at once. Not all of us are quantum leapers, you know, and we don't want to create more fear so that the
Yeah.
changes actually don't happen. So, yeah.
Yeah. Those little steps, you're totally right. Sometimes they are the biggest because they show you so much. It might just be one area of your life, but it shows it to you everywhere, and they are phenomenal experiences.
And
And
it
and
provides
honestly, like
safety.
the vision board, yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So like
Yeah.
the simple things like these vision board classes, they can literally change your whole life.
Hmm.
Reach out to Angela and I. We would love to talk about this more with anybody. And actually, Angela is creating a monthly vision board check-in with everybody to help every us all stay on track and keep our visions like fresh and bringing the things that we want. Sometimes when we check things with other people are like the vision board class at night, us like saying one thing to this woman totally changed her the way she looks at saving people. That's not who she wants to be. So these little things can just like bring so much awareness to you that it totally changed your life. Um, if you would like to join the vision board monthly class, let Angela or I know. We would love for you to be a part of it. Until next time, from our soul to yours, have a super fantastic day.